Hey, how's everybody doing today? We're going to go ahead and talk about one of the most heavily debated topics in all of strength sports. What is the optimal spine position to handle load within the confines of the deadlift, specifically relating to thoracic position? There's a lot of individuals out there that are really big fans of saying that thoracic position does not matter in any way, shape, or form. You can have terrible, horrendous degrees of thoracic flexion and still deadlift optimally. Here's the first thing I have to say. Anything outside of the range of neutral within spine position is not optimal for deadlifting. I will hold that opinion and justify it and stand by it all day long. But with that being said, Ed Cohn right here in this position here, absolutely nothing wrong with. Not a single thing wrong with this. You can absolutely deadlift optimally in this position here. Now, with that being said, I'll explain a little bit more here in a second. But with that being said, what I get very irritated with is that time and time again, I will see lifters justify a position like this, by pointing to positions like this, pointing to the Ed Cones of the world that have a little bit of thoracic flexion while deadlifting. And meanwhile, their deadlift position looks like this here. That'd be like me saying, I want to look like Arnold Schwarzenegger. I know he supplements with vitamin D3. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to drink this entire bottle of vitamin D3 in one sitting, one serving, have the entire bottle because he does it. He takes vitamin D3. So it doesn't matter how much I take. I can take this whole bottle, right? What would be wrong with that? The dose. The dose would be wrong with it, right? All of a sudden, something can become toxic when we take it in overwhelming amounts. As the old saying goes, the dose creates the poison. And the same thing goes with thoracic flexion, because what we have to understand is that when it comes to spine neutrality, neutral is range. Neutral is a range when it comes to spine position. And that really is the case with just about any joint in the body. For example, when I talk about wrists, I'll oftentimes say that we need a neutral wrist position in the bench press to actually transfer energy optimally and have optimal stability. With that being said, this is neutral, this is neutral. It's a range. It's not perfectly straight. When we say neutral, the word neutral is not synonymous with straight. These are different words with different meanings. So talking about neutral as a range, you'll notice that the range here, the green and the yellow, it tends to increase towards the thoracic spine in this graph here. Or you can see that if you had a little bit of thoracic flexion, like the Ed Cohn example shows, you'd still be within the range of neutral. And if we go back to this example here, that is a neutral spine. It's a neutral spine with a little bit of thoracic flexion, but still neutral at that. But this here is not neutral. Not even close. This is going to come with lots of issues, an obvious safety concern, very obvious safety concern. But furthermore, when we look at the primary functions of spine position under load, we have to understand that this is very concerning. So when we talk about spine composition or spine function under load, we have to understand that spine is supposed to serve as a conduit of energy transfer under load. And when it looks like a fishing pole, when it's being flexed like that, it cannot do its primary purpose optimally. But furthermore, you'll see the same faults time and time again from lifters who use that cop-out excuse to justify these egregious positions. The kind of faults that you'll notice is they always have two big things wrong. Actually, usually more like three or four, but two major things that are across the board. The first of which is they have very hard time actually building tension optimally. Therefore, they typically have a lot of wasted forward motion, and they're typically a little slower off the floor as their thoracic flexion oftentimes will get worse, and then the barbell comes up. Now, obviously, there's a safety concern here. But again, looking at the movement fault specifically, tension building is sacrificed as well as starting position. But furthermore, the biggest issue you'll see across the board is an obvious one. When's the last time you saw in a recognized federation in powerlifting someone lock out with this spine position? Name it. Name the time. And if you can name it, that is extremely disappointing because it's not supposed to happen. Point is, you can't lock out in this spine position in competition, and for good reason. It wouldn't be a full lockout. It would not be a comp standard lockout. So what do you see every single time someone deadlifts like this? With top end load, you see this here. They stall out at the top. They can never come to lockout because you're creating a positional fault that you then have to try to overcome at the top of the deadlift, which is an absolute shit show, which is why you'll see deadlifters that use this kind of strategy or in this kind of position always fail at lockout with top end loads. They could handle exponentially more load, but they end up failing time and time again or not hitting comp standards, not getting a down command for a very long time. And when they do get it, it's red lights cross board because they never achieved a comp standard lockout. With that being said, to do a quick recap here, this example is within the range of neutral. This is okay. We need a neutral spine position to deadlift our best. When we look at the primary functions of our spine, it is supposed to be a conduit of energy transfer, and it cannot do that optimally when it is outside of the range of neutral. But again, people that point to this and justify severe thoracic flexion with it, the dose creates the poison, because this is within the range of neutral. This very much is not. So we should be shooting for a neutral spine position when we go to deadlift our best and to be as safe as possible while doing so. This falls within this range, this does not, and we cannot use examples like this here to justify egregious degrees of thoracic flexion, because the dose creates a poison. It makes no fucking sense. It's dog shit explanation or validation for your position.